Well, we just finished our first LMND Investor Day. I want to do in this video just a quick dump of thoughts from the day. It's not going to be totally organized, not going to be totally comprehensive. It's been a long, full day. So just going to dump some thoughts, though, while they're fresh in my mind and give you guys a sense of what it was like to be there. What were some of the things you kind of behind the scene things that you didn't see just watching the presentation alone. So let's jump into it. Yeah, it was, first of all, really awesome to be there. Really awesome to meet other LMND investors and basically spend the whole day talking about LMND from as many different angles as we could think of with a number of different investors. So if there are future LMND events and you're a LMND investor passionate about the company, definitely recommend trying to make the trip out there. We had people from Europe, people from Mexico. I think I might have been the only Canadian that was there, but yeah, people from all over the States. Yeah, so super awesome to meet all of those other LMND investors. Also really great to meet lots of LMND staff. They were all very friendly, very eager to come chat and engage with us and dialogue with us and talk about the presentation. So immediately afterwards, there was a lunch and just a chance to hang out with lots of the different staff, talk with them. Was really good, and lots of people that are clearly people that are really passionate about this company, believe in this company, and are excited for its future. So yeah, definitely get the sense, just a genuineness from everyone I talked to, LMND staff, that they're passionate about the company and really believe in the success of the company, that's what they're going to achieve. Another funny example, another shy tidbit, was earlier in the morning, I think it was during the lunchtime actually. We were chatting with him, and he gave a funny example. We're talking about legacy systems, and he gave a funny example of legacy systems in banks. How many banks, many banks send LMND huge piles. He said huge piles of envelopes every single day that are checks for insurance products that would be tagged on, with maybe the bank's mortgage. And rather than using like a dedicated API or something much more efficient, they're just using like this old school system because there's maybe a huge department of people filling and filing checks, and they don't want to change that. So there's these major banks that are sending checks every single day, and it's easier. They really can't change. LMND really can't change that banks how they operate, but then they do it. They adapt to that inefficiency. And, build the sort of clever workaround where they're automatically tagging and uploading and managing these checks and depositing them, et cetera, and making the whole process, 100 times faster. Another thing that Yael said when we were having drinks with her, and she said, that it was actually 7 years ago today that she started at LMND. So pretty cool to see that longevity. But she also said, that there was an initial pitch back then by Daniel, and for her, it's really awesome because she said the initial pitch, they had coffee or something, and he told her, we want to start this insurance company. You should join us and be on our staff. He said the initial pitch was the exact same story, basically the same kind of presentation that we heard here today at Investor Day. I mean, obviously it's evolved over time, and they've executed on that vision, had a ton of execution, 7 years of execution on it. But the same story, the same plan that they had in mind of building insurance, this insurance product, insurance system from the ground up on this digital platform, and all the benefits and sort of that come with that we've talked about extensively on this channel, that's what they were explaining then, and that's what they're still explaining now, and still aiming for now, and executing towards now. So the consistency of that vision is really incredible. Now, if I'm just thinking about the overall presentation from Daniel and Maya and Tim, I'd say the overall theme and thesis for me, when I really just think through the whole thesis from the sort of ground up digital platform that they have, is that they've built this proper structure and foundation. I mean, that's basically the thesis. They've built a long sort of a proper structure and foundation for insurance, for a digital insurance product, and really done it with a lot of foresight to the future. That's it. That's the Lemonade thesis in a nutshell. They've done that. It's hard to do that. It takes a lot of careful thought to do that. Another funny anecdote during the Q&A time was that one of the banking analysts there was asking how much customer churn does Lemonade have, and sort of pressing management for numbers. Of course, they release annual dollar retention numbers, and management kind of said, we release those numbers, but not churn numbers. And they kind of went back and forth a little bit, sort of pressing them for that. But I kind of thought it's funny, like if that banking person had, if they read the definition of annual dollar retention, like it's actually, fairly straightforward, I would say, to work backwards and do a rough calculation or estimate of what the churn could be, is which I've done in other videos. So it's funny that I feel like that's a pretty, you don't even have to look that far if you're thinking about this a little bit deeper, and you could kind of get to the answers there yourself. But also management, interesting to follow that up, the churn numbers, is management did address another question from somebody else about the churn numbers, and they even sort of referenced my numbers that I had. Management said that my numbers were actually a little bit too high, and I have to, so I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm missing there, but I have to think through exactly how that was calculated, and if there's some way they could be missing, something could be missing there. Another interesting thing they said in the presentation was that they talked about the PET product, and how PET is a high frequency claim product, but it's a low severity. So you have a lot of frequency but low severity. And I have noticed, if you follow all the reviews that get written for the Lemonade app in the iOS App Store, you'd notice that there tends to be, at least of late, I would say, a lot more negative written reviews. Maybe even, I'm just guessing, but maybe 80% of the reviews coming through that are written are probably negative. And those are the only ones you kind of that show up and you can see and actually read, right? So what's happening there? I think for one, most of the positive reviews are probably still the overwhelming amount of reviews coming in are positive, but probably most people are just clicking 5 stars and not actually writing a positive review. And that just, tends to be the case. But also I wonder, just because PET is a product with the high frequency, low severity of claims, you're just going to have a higher number of claims going through. You have a higher number of claims occurring or funneling through. You're going to have a higher amount of disgruntled customers that are going to want to leave a negative review. Maybe they didn't understand their product fully or their policy fully. Obviously, that still gives room for improvement of how Lemonade could make sure that's clear to those customers. But that's kind of actually was that note about the pet insurance, because I feel like I've noticed there's a lot of sort of angry people writing, negative reviews, or they're saying, my dog wasn't covered for such and such. And that kind of tipped me off to think, you know what, that's probably why you're seeing more of those, is just because you have that high frequency, low severity product. So you're getting a lot more, the quantity of claims going through that is higher. So then the quantity of disgruntled customers is higher, and the quantity of disgruntled customers that write negative reviews is also higher. Another positive thing I took away from the presentation is that renters insurance is very, very good. I think it was, in their projected loss ratio for the most recent quarter or cohort of renters customers was 51%, and I think otherwise, though, they're tracking into 60%. 60%. I don't remember the exact number offhand here, but very, very good for a product that at one time, I believe back in the day, in the earliest days, was like 200, 300%, and then dropped down to the hundreds, 50%. And this came down, and now is, consistently tracking 60%, maybe even lower than that. It's amazing. I also feel like management might be sandbagging a bit. Tim went through some projections and models around a 20% compound annual growth for 5 years. We're going to talk about that more in another video or videos. I'm going to leave that for now, but I feel like, that's just one possibility. It's just they're looking at, but I think that could play out different ways. and management would react accordingly. I also really picked up from the presentation that regulators are terribly slow. It's actually really sad. They talked about that they're waiting for regulators in California to approve rate changes, and some of that even was tied up just because of an election. They're waiting for an election to occur. But really, it's actually kind of sad, that regulators are that terribly slow at adopting rates. Really, in the end, I would say it's bad for end customers because you're going to stifle competition in a market. If you're a regulator and you're really slowly changing rates, you're ultimately going to affect you and you and me as the end customers, because it's going to stifle competition and you're not going to be able to have the tightest, best insurance product, best rate possible. But this is definitely something Lemonade is an important piece, is trying to manage and quickly get regulatory approval for rate changes. That about does it for this video. But the overall theme and thesis again is that Lemonade has built the solid foundation for building a digital insurance product. And to understand this structure, you have to look beyond just the surface. So again, I'll leave you with that. And I will be going through the presentation and looking for more angles to look at and share with you. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, it's in the bag.